It's 12:15 p.m., and this CSX Autorack train is making its way north through the famed Folkston Funnel in Folkston, Georgia. Every day, over 50 movements pass through this important rail line, and for good reason. For CSX, it's the only way for trains from the Northeast and the Midwest to reach Florida. You might be thinking this program is just about spending some time at the funnel, but that's only part of it. It is Thursday, December 23rd, 2010. Tomorrow will be Christmas Eve, and that means the holiday hiatus begins in 12 hours, which allows engineers and conductors and other CSX crew members the chance to spend time with their families for Christmas. Freight trains will be stopped during this time. So as a result, Matthew J. Betzer Productions traveled to the Folkston Funnel to spend the 12 hours between noon and midnight catching every movement passing through town, hence the title, Hour to Hour. Narration will be limited as the purpose is about a study of train movements passing through. When needed, the graphics will appear to give information. Info might be limited at some points as some info could not be obtained, but if all is right, you'll see on the graphic from left to right a running tabulation of the trains passing through, followed by the time of day it passed through Folkston, the train's number, the direction of travel, as well as which line the train is coming from or headed to, NA for the Nahunta subdivision, or J for the Jessup subdivision, which this train is traveling onto. On the bottom, if known, will be the train's origin and destination. Located 42 miles north of Jacksonville, Florida, within Charlton County, is Folkston. The town is small, and they have learned to live with their trains, although there are residents who differ. A viewing platform built in 2001 gives train watchers everything they need to kick back and watch train after train pass through. Taking a closer look at the area near Folkston, the CSX Nahunta sub makes its way north of Jacksonville through Folkston and makes its way northeast to Jessup. The line then makes its way to Savannah, Georgia, and leads north into the Carolinas, and allows trains to make their way towards Washington, New York, and even to New England. The Jessup sub, splitting off at Folkston, heads to Waycross, which is a major yard for CSX. It is also where the Fitzgerald sub starts heading northwest to Atlanta. This is used by trains heading into Tennessee and through Kentucky to serve the Midwest cities of Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Chicago, and other points in the Midwest. The other leg of the Jessup sub later rejoins the Nahunta sub at Jessup, but the main focus will be in Folkston as we spend the last 12 hours before the holiday hiatus to see everything pass through. One word to mention is that since it's a Thursday, the famed Juice train will not be operating today, but there will be many other trains passing through, as well as a few surprises. A half hour after catching the first train, another northbound comes into town. It too, like the first train, will be using the Jessup sub. You might have seen the train was slow in passing the platform. A malfunction at the crossing at Love Street, which is the northmost street crossing the tracks, has forced all trains for the moment to proceed at restricted speed. A worker would later fix the problem by mid-afternoon. The last cars soon make the switch off the Nahunta sub to the Jessup sub. Later in the program, we'll talk about the signals north of town and how you can tell which line a train will be taking. For our next shot, we decided for a different angle. We're going to jump across to the west side of the tracks and shoot on Main Street, the center crossing. As you can see, two cameras were used in the shot. The stationary camera here is pointed at the water tower, which bears the slogan, "Gateway to the Okefenokee." As Q457 continued passing by, a headlight from the south on track 1 meant that the railroad version of a solar eclipse was about to happen. As you can see, we're set up near the old depot, which has been converted into the Folkston Railroad Transportation Museum. Unfortunately, it was not open during our visit, although the Whistling Dixie just east of the crossing on Main Street was. Once the last car cleared the crossing, the gates rose back up and we crossed back over to the viewing platform. As you might have seen, K836 was slowing down, and for good reason. Another southbound was running right behind Q457 and holding the single track ahead of K836, and now that southbound rolls by. This train is also Q251, like the one we saw earlier going to Waycross. The schedule of the train shows that it starts from Waycross and makes its way to Winston, Florida, then it later returns to Waycross. To avoid confusion, this one is numbered Q251-23. The 23 indicates the 23rd, which is the day the train began its schedule.
C5223. Clear. Distance response. CSXD 7845. Northbound.
At 2:25, our first southbound off the Nahunta sub makes its way through Folkston, and with clear track ahead, the train screams through town.
He's coming from homeland.
There would be a lull between this and the next train to pass through. That would give us a chance to explain some of the signal meanings for northbound trains passing by. This graphic is set up to view the signals going northbound at milepost 602.2, just north of town. The signals are always lit so you can know what's going on. Now first we need to get the signals on, so they are now all red, which means there's nothing nearby. Now say if track 2, which is the track on the right, or the east track, if the top signal is green, then a movement is clear straight through on the Nahunta sub, and the same applies if it was on track 1. Now if the signal on track 2 were to read red over green over red, or medium clear, then the train is going to be switching from track 2 to track 1. This eliminates the need to switch over when the double track ends at Birch near milepost 598. Now, if track 1's signal reads red over yellow over flashing green, or a medium approach medium, that indicates that the train is going to switch onto track 1 on the Jessup sub. If the green was not flashing, it would still be switching over, but the aspect would be of a medium approach slow, meaning the train would have to proceed past the signal and the turnouts at a slow speed. The same would apply if the signal would appear on track 2 on the Nahunta going over to Jessup track 2, since there isn't a switch from track 2 to 1. But as seen by this graphic, two medium approach slow signals would not be possible, going down the Jessup sub as the tracks drop to single track at Hague, about 4 miles away. Last thing to cover on signaling at Folkston is when a train approaches, starting from a red signal. Sometimes, if a northbound train has gone by and there's another behind it, the first aspect to normally appear afterwards is a red over a lunar, meaning restricting. This signal was also given to many trains earlier today when the crossing at Love Street was malfunctioning. If the train in front clears another block ahead, then it moves to a slow approach, a red over yellow. Depending on how fast the first train is going, the signal might then change to other aspects, but if there's a different color amongst the red, something is bound to be coming. There are two defect detectors that the scanner at the viewing platform picks up well. There's one several miles north on the Nahunta at Newell at milepost 592, and one 8 miles south of Folkston at 610.6. Finally, after an hour and a half of nothing passing through, the scanner chirped up with info, and a southbound double-stack train came. Keep an eye on the crossing at Main Street as the gates have gone down, and see if you can see what we didn't catch when filming this at the time. We now move down by the chain fence as Q441 heads south. Turning around reveals a northbound intermodal passing the tail end of Q441. It's interesting to note that Q174 and its sister Q172, seen earlier today, once were destined to Massachusetts. Q174 went to Boston while Q172 ended at Worcester. However, both trains were cut back to North Bergen since most of the containers were cut off there. After Q174, it would be a 2-hour wait. During that time, sunset would take place, and darkness took over. At 6:30, our first passenger train made an appearance. Amtrak PO98, the northbound Silver Meteor.
Limited, Folkston, track 2. Road 11, 8 out.
After the Silver Meteor, a light near the Jessup sub led us to believe something was waiting to come down, but it didn't at all, as it was only a maintenance truck on a service road. Half an hour later, though, a horn in the distance on the Jessup meant something else was coming. Although they are light engines, they do have a number. This one is XO001. The units are probably headed to Jacksonville. Amtrak PO52, the northbound auto train, which was due around this time, was running late. As a result of not seeing anything, we actually left for dinner after this train, leaving the streak in peril. Amazingly, when we returned here just after 8:30, we were surprised to learn that nothing came by during this time, and the signals displayed clear on the Nahunter. It seemed it would be for the auto train, but before that came, this showed up. Q182 would be heading off into the night to Charlotte. This is the counterpart to Q181 we saw earlier with the Crowley containers. Next, the southbound off the Jessup sub came down on track 1. auto train finally came through. A medium clear signal is the reason why he's passing through here slow, as he'll drop onto track 1 having passed Q603 going south on track 1. The music you hear in the background is that of the volunteer fire department that's based across the tracks. They're going around town in a parade style, spreading holiday cheer. Fortunately for us, they wouldn't disturb us for the rest of the night.
Equipment defect detected. Milestone 610.6. Track 1. Yeah, that's right.
As we got into the later hours, several northbounds to the Jessup sub made their way through. So sit back and enjoy the show as the funnel lives up to its name.
Northbound, number 2 clear, South Acres, GSX 156.
Even though Q452 was on track 1, it's running so close behind K710 that it's on a slow signal, waiting for it to get further ahead. By now, the last anticipated movement would be Amtrak's Silver Star, but fortunately there was another train as it was calling signals south on the Jessup sub. Note the Army vehicles on this mixed freight headed towards Jacksonville.
Clear. Bolts turnout. Edge 7814. Track 1. South out.
Near Lake Black I used to. Where did you drive down? Aiken. Today was about 4.5 hours, and I stopped. I don't fly or anything. I can make it in less if I take 95 part of the way, but I stay off the interstate. Actually, my house is on US 1 in Aiken. So if I really want to take the kind of scenic route, I can take US 1 all the way from my house to here.
Attention. Milepost 610.6. Track 2.
This would be the last southbound to pass through Folkston during the 12-hour span. Finally, at 11:33 p.m., PO 92 came up and also took a medium clear signal to switch over to track 1.
Train 92 North, medium clear, folks, going to track 1. Medium clear, 92 out.
The grand total was 25 trains passed through. That's not bad considering movements like the juice train was not operating, but it was still a good day in seeing what comes through when there's only 12 hours left until the holiday hiatus. The next morning, the 24th of December, the hiatus has begun, but a few trains are still going until they can be tied down. The only thing that will operate daily is Amtrak, and after a southbound hopper train has passed by, PO 97, the southbound Silver Meteor, heads by right on time going into Florida. After not seeing a single coal train, loaded or empty, pass through, we did see one today. A northbound empty drag with CSX 808 in charge blasted through going up the Nahunta.
Yeah, that's not intermodal, that's the dense. That's a frickin' coal train. U-106.
You want to stay 12 and take the 808? No. 3.5 now.
At 10:53, our final train seen during our time at Folkston came through. K820, a unit train that would go up the Jessup Sub on its way to Illinois.
K820. I think is what he said. So yeah, this is probably costly. That's about it. Big K trains you see around here. Mostly either rock or costly. It looks like costly.
It has been a great time down at the Folkston Funnel. Would have been nice to see more, but this was something different to do, having spent 12 hours through sun, darkness, and cold leading up to the holiday hiatus. Thanks for watching Hour to Hour, noon to midnight at Folkston, Georgia.